Welcome back, everyone, to another episode, Information Fest and Intellectual Powwow with our dear brother, Neil Frazier. I want to thank everyone for tuning in last week, whether it was live or after the fact, and the participation because of the points that he touched on, which were 1,000% correct. Now, you're not going to get everyone to agree, but the overwhelming majority had a feeling stoked inside of them that they finally heard the truth. In tonight's episode, Tears of the Sun, Systemic Traps, the Conquering Negative Social Conditioning is what we're going to go on tonight. Brother, you're doing a phenomenal job, and the crescendo is building, and the waves of this righteous tsunami is finally hitting home, and it can't be stopped. I want to say one more thing, that I'm going to add on the playlist of all the lessons that you've shared on this platform in the description area below, but I'll do that momentarily so that when you watch this show, or if you watch any of the shows, you'll see all the videos that Brother Neil Frazier has ever done, and you'll want to immerse yourself in that because he's done so much over this time, and we don't seem like we're stopping no time soon, and I don't anticipate that. We're just beginning to get the momentum, and what you've done already so far has been phenomenal, and I want to personally thank you in front of everybody for this, and I'm going to turn the floor over to you, my brother. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Brother Lance, always for the kind words. And, again, when I connect with you, it's like a high point of the week, because I know that we're connecting for a purpose. And a lot of times you can go through days or even weeks without realizing that, the purpose for which you were put here, you're not focused on. So you have definitely provided a platform for all of us who are focused on the same thing. We may come from different backgrounds. We may live in different areas or regions of the world. But we know that when we connect, all of the forces are coming together at the right time.
Yes.
And I want to give some love and shout out to the people in the chat room. You guys are phenomenal. And we know one thing that we know, and I was telling you about this, Lance, is the tone of the emails change as the truth hits home more to those who have always turned a blind eye to our truth. And I just want to say to people who don't know, the Academy of Netter is a Black think tank. And what that means, as Lance has said before, we deal with our issues. We understand, we comprehend, that there are issues outside of our issues, but no one or no group of people can advance until they advance with their own culture first. And that's one of the huge mistakes that we have made as a people, is that we have to address our issues first before we can look at anything else, because in the way that this system is set up, we are the ones that take the hardest punches from Mike Tyson, before we even get a chance to respond. So I just want to make that clear. Some of the people that's sending emails, and I'm going to clarify a lot of things today, because we've been bamboozled. Okay, let's face it. We've been given narratives that we live by, that we pass down from in our own culture from generation to generation. And so before I get into the presentation, I just want to make a couple of statements in regards to what I was just saying, is that I don't expect people, and you can go back and read Frantz Fanon, Black Skin, White Mask. So it'll help open your eyes to some things in terms of how the Black world actually is. Okay, our experience in the world as Black men and Black women. So I'm not going to go into that, but the point I want to make is that I don't expect you to agree with our positioning, but I do expect to be respected for it. And see, this is a history that we have in this country. When you go against the narratives, then you're personally attacked. And then, you know, our people we have to try to defend our position. Nobody else has to do that. So I don't make any excuses about anything that I present to our people. Lance has given me the green light on his platform to do that, and that's all that matters to me. I am not trying to live up to anybody's standards and values. What I'm trying to do is to help in the process of rebuilding our people from a conscious level, from a spiritual level, and from a physical level. So with that said, Lance correctly said the name of the show today is The Tears of the Sun. Of course, we know the sun has to be crying when the people of the sun are in the condition we're in, constantly being attacked. And so, you know, it's a good thing that, you know, we fight back and address issues that affect us directly, because contrary to what people believe, nobody's going to come to our defense when we have to deal with things concerning Black people. Okay. Yeah, and one more thing I want to say is, let's stop with all the stuff, the narratives in terms of our description of ourselves. We all know, just to give you a reference, we all know that Black is a descriptive term. Okay, let's not, this is one of the other issues we have. Let's stop attacking each other, because we're all living by the same narratives. Okay, and you know, the fact that we have to use words doesn't change that. But just for a point of reference, in the Medu Neter, KMT is land of the perfect Black. You can go look it up for yourself. Our people always refer to us this way. You know, I know things change based on people's constitutions and other things, but the fact remains is this was a descriptive term that our people actually took pride in. And so we're going to stick with that. But one of the ways to get past this so you can focus on the message is to remember that you are children and people of the sun. So yes, the sun is crying today, mainly because we have entered into an area where now, by nature, we're forced to fight back against all of the things that have come against us and our people throughout the ages. So the sun is literally crying because there are those of us who not only want to look at truth, but we also want to attack the truth tellers. And so, you know, we're going to go into why all of this exists today. So Lance, we could start out with the first picture. I want to talk about, I want to talk about this because it's very important in terms of what I'm getting ready to actually explain and what we're going to go into. So this is what is known as divine law of gestation or divine timing, and the future of melanated people. Now, so to be clear, we have systemic traps that have always been set up, and we are in the process of conquering those negative social conditions that still affect us. Okay, and a lot of times, you know, we deal with the issues, but we got to start looking towards how we're going to overcome these issues, because they're not just going to go away. We know this. Okay, we probably pray more than any other people on the planet Earth. Okay, but the secret to prayer is action. because that is one of the divine laws, the law of action. So we know we have a continuity of greatness. I want to direct your eyes to the right side. I don't know, maybe your left side, where there's a picture of the Neter Ankh, a crown, our sacred geometrical figure. And I'm going to go in on this today because this is one of the biggest lies that have been told to people, not just our people, but to the world, because our sacred symbols were stolen and then renamed with an evil connotation to it. And we're going to break that down today too. But we have a continuity of greatness. And as you can see on that side, these are the 4 areas that we have this continuity of greatness in. Also, the young person that's sitting under the tree looking up at the cosmos, because this is another thing that narrative does to you, narratives that we live by. It takes away your metaphysical ability, because we all know from the Dogon, from Benjamin Banneker, and how we're going to look at some pictures to bring this to light, some visuals, is that our people always had this ability to look to the stars and interpret them, because you can't have language before you have concepts. So our people developed concepts. Even to this day, 70% of communication is nonverbal. So you can have people talking out of their mouth, but again, what we see, okay, the harvest of the seeds you are planting and have planted, and now they have germinated. We look at the pictures in between and the present and the future to know exactly where we stand. Two of the greatest sayings of our people that are in the temples all over the world is, man, know thyself. And that self-love is the source of knowledge. You cannot love the narratives of other people and have knowledge of self. That is impossible. Okay. So again, let's start with the 4 things in our past that made us great as a people. Number 1, the oldest symbol that all symbols concerning worship and spirituality have come out of, the Neter Ankh, or the symbol of life. Okay. It is the symbol of life, and it is found, you can actually see this picture in the uterus of a woman. I've shown this picture before in one of the videos. But see, our people dealt with concepts. They dealt with biological, physical, esoteric, cosmos. They dealt with all of these type of inputs. But you've been narrowed down to a 90-degree way of seeing the world instead of a 720-degree way of seeing the world when you include the metaphysical ability that our people have. Okay. And then through this symbol of life, we were able to then begin to comprehend all things that pertain to life. Okay. The next symbol, the symbol of the crown, this is our symbol that comes out of our history. We see this as far back as 4,000 or 5,000 years before there were any other genetically produced people on the planet besides Black people. This is a fact. You can study the work by Mendel's Law. Okay. So these are European scholars that have said this. Okay, not Neil Frazier, but I know this as a fact. Okay, so again, we have to start reclaiming our truth. Okay, and then we can move forward with where we're supposed to be going. Again, we go to the geometric symbol, one of our greatest symbols. We created geometry. We're going to look at that today. You know, it almost angers me because, well, let me give the reference of the book that can help shed some light. Dr. Anthony Browder, Egypt on the Potomac, is a great source reference for this, where he talks about the different symbols that are used on the dollar. Okay, but we must reclaim, we got these people out here that have taken our sacred symbol and made it evil. And I'm going to show you the difference between our symbol and what these evil people actually worship. But they have given you now our symbol and told you this is I don't care who was wearing it, Aleister Crowley or none of them. All of that, this knowledge that they obtained came directly out of Kemet. So it doesn't matter. They were not the originators of something. That's just like if I go somewhere and I see something and I start writing and making narratives about it, and then I tell everybody I discovered it. Well, no, I didn't. It discovered me. Okay, because it was already there. So this is one of the fundamental things that narratives have done to our people, is that it has put us in a box where you don't want to look outside of that box to see who you were before these things were perpetrated. The other thing, they have taken it and our sacred symbols and developed another form of masonry from it. Okay. So that's something you can study about. Ashraquasi is a very good reference for that. And now we have the tree. This is why when people who are not, thinking about the natural things that we are supposed to be thinking about, okay, because the sun is the thing that opens the mind of sun people. But those that are not, they see trees as something totally different. Well, our griots used to teach us under trees. Trees had a very significant meaning in our culture. People gathered under trees like you guys do in churches today. And one of the greatest things that I think that happened to our people was taking you inside a building, okay? Because what happens is, again, you're sun people. So the real revelations and inspiration you're supposed to be getting naturally now, you're bottled up into some tomb-like experience where you're shut off from nature. And I really believe that was by design. Okay, I really believe that was. But yeah, underneath the tree, also this concept of the tree of life came long before anything you know about as Adam and Eve, okay, in some Garden of Eden, okay. It came long before that. So the tree has always been, the other thing that the tree taught us was that once you put the seeds in the ground, okay, they have to take root, they have to get the proper amount of sunshine and rain, and they have to be planted in fertile soil. And then you get this big, green, pretty tree that's there for hundreds of years, in some cases for thousands of years. Okay, so these are the concepts that our people lived by, that they saw in nature before anyone came to put a different spin on it or write a narrative about it. So, you had all of these things were already established before anyone else came on this planet. You had the symbol of divine worship, the Ankh. You had the symbol of divine authority, which is the crown. You had the symbol of sacred geometry, which is the pyramid, and how everything is set up based on geometry. Okay, and then you had the ultimate tree of life. Okay, and there is a tree of death as well. We may go into that a little bit, but then you forgot your past. You forgot your continuity of greatness, not just there, but here on Turtle Island. We'll talk a little bit about that, because As a matter of fact, I want to read a statement about that. It's very, very important. So what you call hieroglyphics, the Meduneter, there was a groundbreaking discovery that could rewrite history. Archaeologists in America have unearthed artifacts at the heart of the Grand Canyon, suggesting an astonishing connection between the majestic natural wonder and the distant world of ancient Egypt. So here we see in your present, okay, and here we see the sun, the water, the rain, the tears of the sun, okay, and we see the electromagnetic wave. All of these components actually are part of the tree of life. So as you look below that, then you begin to see how the narratives affected our people. You see here the snake, which again, what people have to understand and comprehend, that there is not just one interpretation of a thing, okay? The snake in history has also been used as a form of divinity or deity, as well as, medicinal, like a symbol of medicine. But in this case, we're going to use it for what we know one of its characteristics to be, okay? What happened was, here you have a different symbol from the one in your genetic memory bank. The symbol of the cross, okay, is a symbol of death. And, people get angry at me when I tell the truth about this. But like I always say, where do you see most of the crosses? In cemeteries. And I advocate for not hanging this around the necks of our children. You can hang it around your own neck, okay, but do not put this around the necks of our children, okay? Here you have, for the first time, because these things weren't present in our culture, we have an arrow through our heart. We begin to experience a type of pain that our people had known before. Of course, there is pain that we experience, but I'm talking about the deep type of emotional and spiritual, psychological pain that we as a people have always suffered here. And also in different eras of the world, eras of time, where, our people were enslaved by the Arabs before actually it happened here. But nonetheless, we begin to experience these type of traumas, okay? And then you had a narrative, or a plagiarized narrative, that you begin to look to, okay? And then you went from being taught by a griot under a tree inside a building that shut you off from the primary source, the sun. And this is why, why I termed this the tears of the sun, okay? Because sun people have totally turned their back on the creator creatrix spirit, totally. Okay, so that's debatable. I know a lot of people are going to be debating that. That's fine. The other thing, I'm not the type of person, everybody's entitled to their own opinion. Okay, so you don't have to agree with me. Matter of fact, I prefer you not agree with me, but do your own research, and then you can verify whether it's something that you want to pursue in terms of knowledge or not. That's all. It's no need to tear somebody else down because they have a different opinion than you. Okay, all of these things we've been taught to keep us in this 90-degree angle, because actually, this is one of the reasons too why we can't grow and build, is because if someone doesn't agree with your point of view, you don't want to work with them. That's insane. First of all, they're not from the same mother and father. They didn't grow up in the same household you grew up. Many times they may not have even grew up in the same part of the country. So all of these childish things that have been used against us, this Willie Lynch theology, We in 2024, we have got to recognize and move beyond that. Also in the present, you notice we have trees at each time in our history. It's very significant. But you notice here, okay, where the law of polarity, where we know on this side, we have the negative things that were coming at us, and on this side. So you're getting hit from both sides, but you also see the trees, the law of polarity. You see the sun, you see the positive side, you see the rain, you see the electromagnetic waves. Now you see the butterfly, all of these things, because the butterfly represents you moving from your caterpillar state to your higher consciousness. But you have to have a cocoon experience for that to happen. Okay, and our people are going through this cocoon experience. There are going to be some, like I read somewhere, where only a third of the butterflies actually make it out of the cocoon, an astonishing number. Okay, so, you know, we're in a situation where if we don't begin to break these things down and look at them, then it's going to continue to affect us in a negative way. But here we see right under the butterfly, we see the wolf. Okay, and I talked about this characteristic in the last video, that no matter what someone is telling you, in nature, the action of the wolf is it's a apex predator. So if you make the mistake of turning your back on it, you may not be able to live to tell anybody. So why do we do this in the real world when we know that these systemic traps have been set up for us to fail? Okay. But again, no matter what, you're always going to see the tree of life there, which tells you that you have the power to change this. Okay. However, what's happening is because you're not living by the divine laws. And when I say you, I'm talking about me too. I'm no better than anyone else. It's a struggle for all of us every day. But again, this is where the tears of the sun come in, is because we have been projected. Okay, our minds and our consciousness have been projected, or a projection or a movie has been uploaded in our minds that's diametrically opposed to our nature. Okay. So the one thing that we have to do is we have to remember these principles, that you have to find fertile soil to plant in. When you find that fertile soil, like Lance has, then you must have the ability to have people that are giving you sunshine and rain. You know, it doesn't mean that, you know, you have to accept the advice or opinions of everybody. It just means that there are some people that's going to water your seed and some that are going to give it sunshine. But at the end of the day, in order for it to germinate, take roots and germinate, you must plant it in fertile soil. And that's where we've made our mistake, by putting all of our eggs in one basket. Okay, we can no longer afford this anymore. Okay, and nature teaches us this principle. This is why you see every year those trees shed their leaves and grow new ones. Okay, sometimes it's necessary to do that. And then looking into the future, you see the sun over here smiling. Okay, and there's a 360-degree change from what had been holding us down in these conditions. Okay, and then you always see these elements. You'll see the rain, okay, and you'll see the tree. And so you know that you're moving forward when you're moving in that direction. Okay, Brother Lance, have you found the Orion's belt yet?
Yes, I just
Okay.
did. Let me grab it for you, brother.
Okay,
Thank you so much. All right.
Okay, so as I was explaining, that our sacred symbols that our ancestors saw in antiquity have been hijacked and turned into something evil. This is done by Hollywood. You know, it's in the entertainment industry. And, you know, our people just accept things a lot of times without looking at the origin of something. These are our sacred symbols. This is what your ancestors saw when they developed these concepts. Okay, the pyramids, they are aligned, the ones in the Giza Plateau are aligned with Orion's belt. Also, you see the geometrical pyramid turn upside down here. Okay, and the thing about upside down is we also been bamboozled to think that something has to be one way for it to be correct. No. Okay, so stop letting people tell you there may be a group called the Illuminati. I don't know and I don't care. Okay, all I know is that we have to take back our sacred symbols. We have to teach our children that these symbols are not evil. Okay, these symbols connected us, okay, with the universe, with the creator, creatrix spirit. And then when we saw them and we saw those concepts, we duplicated it here on the planet, and they are still here. Okay, now I'm going to show you a picture of who they really worship. And they're telling you that the creator's symbols or elements are evil, which is a lie. Okay. So, so much knowledge has came or has been deciphered from our people being able to look like Benjamin Banneker, who is the primary surveyor of Washington, D.C., was able to look into the stars and interpret it to set up the city of D.C. on a prime meridian, because there would be no city called Washington, D.C., one of them, if not the most powerful city in the world, if it wasn't for Benjamin Banneker. Okay. So just like the Dogon, when they were able to look and see, discovered Sirius B and knew all of the dynamics involved with it, diameters involved with it. Okay. This is the ability that you had before you started going inside a building and praying to a man and worshiping a man and a woman rather than your real creator, creatrix. So I want to, Lance, you see the picture of the big illuminated aisle?
Yes, let me see here.
Okay.
I'll get it.
But we're clear about.
Is that it? No.
No, that's, yeah.
Okay,
It's like that big illuminated. It was the last one I sent you.
Okay, because see, when I downloaded them, they were all in like a different order. So, and they're really small. They're really small. So let me just go through all of them.
Okay.
And you tell me when to stop.
Okay.
Maybe I didn't catch that.
There it is. There it is, right there.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yes, brother. Thank you. So, this is the real Luciferian God that the leaders of this world and our country worship. Okay. I'm not going to say the name of the person because this is a person who was excommunicated for telling truth. But we know from, you know, certain prestigious universities where they still have this same symbol that this is their real God. Okay. Not our sacred pyramid that they have made you think is evil. No, that's a okie doke. Okay, you've been hoodwinked. This is their real God. And anywhere people of power conjugate in this world, like here, it's the Bohemian Grove, then you will see this symbol. So let's stop this stuff about them taking our sacred symbol. Talking about is Beyonce, one of the, this stuff is crazy, okay? And this is embedded in the psyche of not just Black folks, but all Americans, because they have stolen our sacred symbol. They don't want you to know the power. I wish I had time today to go into the power of the geometry of the pyramid. But At some point, I will do a video about that. But I'm here to tell you that this is their real God, that all of these so-called powerful people with all this money in the world, this is their God right here, not our sacred pyramid symbol. So now I'm going to talk to you, and thank you, Brother Lance. The one with the pyramid and the Sphinx in front of it. Yeah, that's it. Now, let me tell you why, and these are over 10,000-year-old symbols, our people's symbols. They're there today. But this is the reason why they demonize our culture. It's because you have the greatest continuity of connection to the creator, creative spirit than anybody else here on the planet. And I'll debate anybody about this. This is why we have tears of the sun. You have forgotten who you are. Okay. You have forgotten. You have let other people write a narrative. And this is why they demonize the pyramid. Now, the first pyramid, okay, was designed by Imhotep, okay, at Saqqara in Egypt, okay, this first step pyramid. The Sphinx is over 10,000 years old as well. But see, you have people like the movie they made about Imhotep in Hollywood, talking about he's a mummy. It's ridiculous. Imhotep is the first physician in history that was born 2,500 years before this person that the world calls the father of medicine, Hippocrates. Okay. All of these people studied in Kemet. Hippocrates will tell you this himself, that he is a child of Imhotep. Okay. Also, Imhotep was the first deity that was worshipped at a shrine. The Greeks call him Aesculapius. So, you know, this stuff that they're putting out about our people is not true. And that's why I'm refuting it today. And we need to stop teaching our children this stuff, okay, that they have in the history books. You don't believe it? The Greeks worship Imhotep as Aesculapius. Don't take my word for it. Okay. Also, as I showed you with the concepts of Orion's belt, and we're looking at the pyramids and the Sphinx right now, okay, we know that these concepts were hijacked, stolen, and then turned into what you are regurgitating today, okay? And that's why I have the sacred geometric figure that someone want to ask me, well, why do you have a satanic thing? No, our people, this wasn't satanic to us. This was satanic to people who are opposed to nature, to the sun. I am a sun person. So when I look at this symbol, okay, and when you look at it, you should see it the same way. This has nothing to do, okay, with people who came up with a concept less than 2,000 years ago that now you're taking as truth. Okay. And you can see these powerful symbols that are still in the present in the world today. Okay, brother, I want to go to, let's see here. All right, we're going to, let's go to the guy with the lab coat and the black rat. I've shown this before, but it's definitely a part of the concepts we're talking about today. And this has something to do with negative social conditioning and systemic traps, and why we must now put a spotlight on this, and then move forward from this. And I'm going to talk about before we delve into this, I'm going to talk about two of the major concepts in behavioral psychology that this is centered around. The first one is classical conditioning, okay, which is involuntary responses that occur to specific stimulus, to a specific stimulus or stimuli. And why this is important is so when at first he would give the dog meat, okay, and ring a bell, a tone with them. Whenever he brought the meat, he would ring the tone, right? So eventually, and the dog would salivate. But eventually, and this is what they do to our people, this is a classic case of classical conditioning. They ring the tone, the bell, and the dog, he didn't bring the meat. Okay, this is how they do our people. They take back what they have given you, okay, because it ain't worth nothing anyway, but you have put some kind of value into it. And then you salivate, but there's nothing there for you. It's given to migrants or whoever the hell they want to give it to. Ukraine or Israel, wherever they want to give it, as long as they don't give it to you. Okay, and then, so this is the classical conditioning that our people have always been subject to in this country, where, you know, they have you salivating. Oh, yeah, vote for so-and-so. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. And you hear that tone, they be ringing that bell. Okay, but where's the meat, man? Where's the beef? It's not there. Okay. The other concept with behavioral psychology surrounding this is called operant conditioning. Okay, and so operant conditioning is based on a reward and punishment system. Okay, and it shapes voluntary behavior. Okay, so in other words, this shapes your reaction to something. Okay, in terms of without there being any kind of stimulus. All right, there's either a reward or there's a swift punishment. And so the study was done with the rat, where they would flash a light, I believe it was a yellow light, and when they flashed that light, the rat could go to this little thing, and the food would come down to it in its mouth. Okay, and then when they flashed the green one, nothing would happen. So he would go there, or she would go there, the rats, and there would be no food coming out. But the one that really did it and conditioned them voluntarily, their responses, is when that red light came on and the rat went to put his mouth on that metal pipe to get the food, it shocked him. Okay, so imagine that. So now, whenever the rat saw that red light, it, you know, like we do when we see the police or whatever, you know, you're automatically conditioned. Okay, it's a red flag, a red light. But then we see the yellow light and then we go, you know. But the concept of the yellow light is caution. Okay, so you might go there and it's GMOs. Just because you have the green light to do something doesn't mean you should do it. Okay, so this is one of the major aspects of negative social conditioning with our people and systemic traps where our people are involuntarily and voluntarily conditioned their behavior. But one is where you hear some type of dog whistle, okay? Like they have our people hung up on all these narratives, just like I was talking about with our sacred symbol, talking about some Illuminati. Man, come on. And then, and again, I'm not saying that these groups don't exist. I'm just saying this is your sacred science that has been stolen and plagiarized, and then evil connotation put on it, when the real evil connotation should be put on that big owl I showed you that's illuminated, okay? They have sold our people so much BS till this. And then when you're dealing with it, it's our people that get angry at us. This is insanity. Okay, so again, just to wrap this up, we have been conditioned where we have an involuntary response based on what we hear, what we see. You know, any kind of stimulus they are planted in our brains, in our minds, we react to it. But then, and I'm going to go to the, not the physical aspect, but the psychological aspect of it, where this is what they do with our young people in the music industry. They reward the ones that are spewing this self-hate and destruction in our community and to our children. Because what I heard a 4-year-old singing one day turned my stomach upside down. And it's ridiculous. And they're hearing it in their homes. Okay, so they have gone to a point where they don't even have to run the lab no more. You're running the lab and got the black rat in there. That's you. Okay. And then our young conscious people, they won't give them the time of day. This is where this craving for attention comes from in our community, because they play this game with us. I'm going to give this one fiat and a certain amount of attention, and that's going to make you, actually, this came off the plantation, okay, long before this is part of that trauma gene, that B5 trauma gene, where, again, our people didn't know if, you could be standing right next to somebody, working with them, talking to them, and that conversation will be repeated later to those who had control over you, actual control over your physical body. And that was terrifying in itself. And that's where this reward and punishment system originates. Okay. So next, if you would show the young lady under the tree pointing up at the geometric figure, Lance.
Yes.
See, this is what they want to take away. They want to tell you there's some evil symbol, when our people have always seen this symbol throughout antiquity. And it's a form of our genetic memory bank that our young people should see too. They shouldn't see this symbol as some kind of evil symbol. And we need to stop promoting this. We need to reclaim our sacred symbols. But this is what I call the Benjamin Banneker effect on young people. Imagine if young people knew that they can interpret the stars through their pineal gland. They would see it. I wouldn't be surprised if some of them have seen this figure when they're sitting under a tree of life, not in some building where their pineal gland is shut off. But when they have direct contact with the sun, there's no telling what kind of metaphysical revelations they'll get. And we need to stop pigeon-toeing our young people. Okay, we need to stop that. Okay. Okay, Brother Lance, if you go to the picture of the hierarchy of needs.
Okay, let me see.
It's also in a pyramid form. Right? Okay,
right
so
there.
yeah, that's it. So here you can see at the very top, okay, is self-actualization. Now again, I want to talk about this self-actualization, because unless Black folks self-actualize, we're not no good to anybody, ourselves or nobody else. So we have to accept this principle and understand it and comprehend it, okay? Because self-actualization is necessary in order for people to have self-worth or self-love. As we explain, one of the great sayings of our ancestors in antiquity, along with know thyself, is that self-love is the foundation of knowledge. In other words, you can't have knowledge of self. You can't know yourself without first loving yourself. And you cannot reach the highest form of expression, self-actualization, going from a caterpillar to a butterfly. You cannot reach this without self-actualizing. This is at the seat of most of the jealousy and enviousness that we experience in our culture. Okay. And this too goes back to the plantation, where one person was elevated over another on purpose. Okay. And you got somebody in a field working 16 hours and they mad at you because you sitting on the porch serving tea. Okay. See, this is at the root of this. But our people have to grow beyond this now, because we recognize this game. Okay. And in order for you to self-actualize, you have got to accept the fact that your culture is the number one most important thing to you as a sun person on this planet. Anything else that you do is not gonna, you're not planting in fertile soil, because you're denying yourself. This is what the root base of the word concept ignorance comes from, that you're ignoring yourself and following someone else. The next level after self-actualization is esteem. Again, self-esteem is very, very important. Now, this is where you see, again, the law of polarity or the law of opposites. You see the flip side where you have the narcissist. Okay, self-esteem and narcissism are two separate things, although they can appear. A person can take somebody like Lance that's very confident. People can look at that as a form of arrogance, or they can look at that, who that nigga think he is, stuff like that. When we are not experiencing enough self-esteem. This is why there's so much self-medication in our culture. This is why we don't respect other people, because you have been taught, whenever you don't regurgitate these narratives, then the people who have you bound by these narratives get angry at you. And we're going to show a picture to talk about that. They get angry at you because you're not following the things the narratives that they have always used to keep you from self-actualizing. The other thing that comes with esteem is respect. Okay. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't mind the emails, but you're going to have to respect me. Okay. Or I won't communicate with you anymore. I have that right. You have the right to believe what you believe. And you've done a very good job with spreading that all over the world, obviously, where you have convinced 40% of our people the same thing, maybe higher now. But we, as Sun people, have the right, as the first people on this planet, we have the right to dictate our own future, to teach our own children. And for you to get angry at us for doing this says a lot about you. This is why you have this crazy stuff with what they call CRT or whatever else names they're given to this, that they come up with. It only means that they don't want the truth to be known about real history. That's all that means. They don't want our children or their children to know. Another aspect of esteem is status. Okay. Now this is very important because this is something that has been used against our people. So our people are told that if we wear Gucci, if we wear $5,000 clothes that are made by other people outside of our community, and that if we wear bling bling, if we drive the most expensive cars, and we have a title that's been given to us by society, that this is the status that puts us, where we feel like we're equal to other people. I'm here to tell you today that those are all false and systemic traps. Status is not something that you seek or comes from other people. Status is something that comes from you walking in your purpose. Okay. And we must flip the script with our children with this, because within this seeking for status, and this is where the narcissism comes in at, is that we are blinded to the collective consciousness. Okay, we're blinded. This is what is prevalent in a calcified pineal gland. That a person that's a narcissist, they actually suffer from self-esteem issues. Okay, so this whole thing about status, we're going to have to reclaim what status means to us as a people. Okay, we're going to have to reclaim that. Some of you may have some ideas. I have my own ideas about that. The other thing about esteem is freedom. Okay, you feel free. But now they're trying to take that away, because every time you speak truth, then you're penalized. Okay, there was a statement that was actually attributed to Plato. But again, these things, they get narrated from time to time, and things are changed. But I think his statement was something like the only person that gets isolated, or some word like that, is the person that speaks truth. And so his point was that it's a form of taking your freedom away. Okay, whereas we have the right, as just people that are created by the creator, creatrix, not a man. Okay, and we have this right. Okay, Article 19. Okay, Article 19, which is the World Code for free speech. Okay, you have this right as a person. And then recognition. Everyone wants to be recognized. Yet you have to be careful with this, because this is another game that people play with us in terms of attention, that turns us against each other, where we don't want one of us to outshine the other, or get more recognition than the other. And I have a saying for this, is that the crabs that have made it out of the barrel, okay, have to always look back at those that are still in the barrel. So with our people, a lot of times the recognition that we get is a double-edged sword, because it makes our people bitter at each other over this elementary game, little boy, little girl game that they have taught our people. Whereas the power is in seeing your brother and sister elevated and recognizing them. That is where your whole nature has been usurped. Okay, because again, we're being led by narratives that are diametrically opposed to who you are. The next on the list is we have the need for love and belonging, which includes friendship, love. I'm not talking about this false love that our people are hooked on. Again, from these lies, that has nothing to do with love. Real Murray has nothing to do with what you have been taught love is. Okay. We all have the need for friendship. Sometimes our friendships are good. Sometimes they're bad. Sometimes they're contentious. Sometimes they're very warming, like they help us to overcome things. And this is another area where we have lost. I look at other cultures. This is something that they do with each other. They have a sense of belonging with each other in terms of their friendships. I didn't say they had to like each other so much, but they at least acknowledge the fact that, hey, you know, we are this, you know, we're proud of it, blah, blah, blah. Intimacy. Everyone needs a form of intimacy. Now, the interesting thing, again, they have isolated this concept and put it on just a physical level. Their intimacy is greater than just your physical desire and needs to release. Although that is a great aspect of it. Where we make our mistake at is a lot of times we put all of our energy into that, okay, instead of the intimacy that comes at a psychological and spiritual level. One of the reasons too why we can't connect on a spiritual level in terms of intimacy is because all of these different denominations you have, okay, and this is all a part of the cocoon experience. All of this stuff, when that butterfly comes out of that cocoon, it's actually well, let me give the definition of metamorphosis. Metamorphosis is the changing of an organism from one state of existence to another, either by natural or supernatural means. Now, and you know, our people have the reason why we are attracted by spirituality, okay, is because this is in our nature. We communicate through telepathy. Most of our people, if you just think about somebody, you can connect with them. Okay, we have this ability when our pineal glands are open. Okay, we have this ability. I do it all the time. I know Lance, there's a lot of people in the chat room probably do it. All of us have this ability. Okay, but again, because we're focused on narratives, we don't see this. The other thing of the psychological intimacy has a lot to do why our self-esteem is low. It's because when you are intimate with someone psychologically, you respect the integrity of that individual, whether you agree with what they believe in or what they, you know, how they view things. If it's different, they have a right to do that. Now, you have to make a decision whether or not you want to continue that friendship based on that, but they have that right to believe and express. That should have nothing to do with how we, you know, have a intimate dealings with each other on a spiritual, psychological level. Physical, you know, that's a whole different thing. Our family. Now, interesting thing, you know, I love my family, but I've always been physically separated from my family. Okay. I'm talking about all my brothers, my sister, nieces, nephews, children, even in the sense of physical separation. Not always, but, you know, I'd say in the last maybe 30 years that, but the interesting thing is that I found another family, a spiritual family and a psychological family that's not only bigger, but it has a deeper impact on my life than my actual physical family. Because we all know that our physical family, when we are not the person that they see us as, then they cut you off. Because families have a narrative history. Okay, and then when you move outside of that narrative history of your family, then you become like me, a black sheep, for lack of another word. Y'all don't get mad. But, you know, it's almost like you are rewarded by the people that are a part of your destiny and purpose. And always, Lance, know I love this song by Earth, Wind, and Fire. You will find other kind that have been in search of you. Many lives that recognize your night now and review. Yeah, you
Yep.
know. So it's like that family, you know, like you and you guys. That family, in a lot of ways, gives you more strength than your biological family, because again, our biological family is gonna deal with us based on the narratives that is a part of our family history, and everybody knows my family history is religion, and I totally walked away from that. So that doesn't mean I love them any less, but now I have to answer to the creative spirit. I can't be put in a box where I can't express what has been given to me and live according to purpose. Community. One of the effective things that they've done is separate. This is behind why gangs form. And don't let nobody fool you. It's not just these gangs in the street when they try to demonize our young people saying that they're gang members. No. There are economic gangs. There are government gangs. Okay, there are all kind of gangs. Okay, but they attack our community and separate us based on, using the Willie Lynch theory, based on our differences. Whereas our differences are actually our strength. Because if you got somebody that can do something different than you, that gives you more power. But because we suffer from this head nigga in charge syndrome, we can't sit down with people who all, sit around the table. Everybody's bringing something different to the table. That is strength. Okay, so we have to rethink the way now we are approaching life right now in 2024 and start again. I make no apologies. The Academy of Netter One is a Black think tank. Okay, other people can add to it, as long as they're not disrespecting my people, like some of the emails I've gotten. But the fact of the matter is, the Black community has to rebuild and get stronger now, especially since they have brought into this warfare against our people another element of innocent people. When I say innocent, I mean they are pawns in this game. Because no matter what you think and what you're told about capitalism, and I always show this picture that shows the Marxist feudalism system that we live by. I don't care what nobody say. There are lords. I mean, there is a king. Okay, these 1% that you're talking about. Then there's the global elite, who are the lords that control our financial situation. Banks here that operate outside of our government. And then there are the knights. These are the police, the prison system, the corporations that give jobs and take them away and discriminate against our people. Then there's the redlining and housing. So these are all the knights. But they keep us, okay, and the same brown people that they have brought to fight against you as serfs and peasants. Okay, so they can play this game all they want. It's ran by capitalists, but you are not living in a capitalism system. The next thing is safety. And safety comes from, security, employment. Okay, because sure enough, if you don't have a safety net, you're going to fall through the cracks like many of our people are doing now. Resources. And I want to say something about resources. You can't have security without resources. And for some reason, our people don't get this. This is another reason why we have to network. Because, you've been taught by people who have between 100 and 300% more of the wealth that you have to mimic their way of seeing resources. That is insane. That is not possible. And so, like I usually say, my parents, them, they survived because of the barter system. I got sugar, you got salt or flour, let's trade. They didn't look at it like, oh, you got more money, I don't want to talk to you. That nigga think he's better or she's better than me. I don't have nothing to do with it. They didn't take, and they didn't have a quarter of the resources that we have. Come on. But yet we are told that we're intelligent. I beg to differ. Honestly, I do. So you can't have, see, now you can have, oh, and this is the other thing I want to say about this. This is why you're isolated, where you're taught that if you have some individual possession, that you have arrived and that you're not responsible for your brothers and sisters. So since we always quoting all these scriptures, and when people respond to me, the first thing you do, okay, you can respond with a scripture, but those are just words, okay? Because here you say, how can you love God if you can't even love your brothers and sisters you see here every day? But yet you got people who will preach to people like they are gods and goddess, okay? And then turn right around and not provide any provisions for those people to help build. Perfect example. A woman has the right to choose her, the baby ain't coming out of your stomach. So, but here's the interesting thing, where the hypocrisy is. You, once that black baby is born, oh, they're on their own. The parents are on their own. And in a lot of cases, they go into family and child services. They're wards of the state, depending on the financial situation of the parents. So, you know, you got all these people talking about this is some kind of religious ritual or religious whatever, okay, or sanctimonious, don't kill children. When you're killing our children every single day, every year, okay, 64,000 black and brown women are missing in this country. But yet, you're so concerned about, and I won't even go into Margaret Sanger and that whole thing. But the point I want to make is that we need to come out of these narratives because we are going to be destroyed as a people, okay? Now, you can continue to kumbaya with these people all you want, but they have shown you that you're not only not getting anything, you're not going to work for them anymore. Property. We don't own any land in this country. All of it was stolen or taken by force or bamboozled by financial institutions. We don't own any property. That's just from the Homestead Act and many other ways, just straight out our farmers having their lands taken. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't get the property. America's a big country. There's a lot of it means that we're not organized enough to help each other get it, because no matter where, I think, Lance, I heard you say this somewhere, when you go to try to get that loan, then you find out.
Exactly.
I don't care how much you think you're worth. You're not, in certain areas, you're not going to get property. It's just that simple. Okay. And so we need to come up, devise some kind of plan to take our land back and stop begging people to give it to us, give it back, because they're not. And then there's health, you know, and we talk about this with these health issues and crises in the Black community, mainly amongst our sisters. But now I'm starting to see a lot of it with our brothers as well. You know, it's something that we really need to pay attention to. You know, you can't continue to eat all this fried food. You can't keep going to McDonald's and Burger King because you don't want to cook and the children are eating this garbage. Okay, you can't keep doing this, and you can't keep eating all this pork and fried foods that's giving our people high blood pressure, and then they put you on that medication for sure to take you out. Okay, and all these pharmaceutical drugs that are no good for you. Find something that you can use to build your health. I eat broccoli raw, okay, and I eat carrots raw. And so, you know, and then I eat fruit, and it keeps me in shape. And, you know, I walk every day, you know what I'm saying, miles, and I'm conscious, in other words, that I'm in a battle against people that's giving me food that could potentially kill me. So, and the final thing about this is what's so crazy. We go into a hospital. I saw this one day. You got people standing around laying hands on somebody, okay, that's 300 pounds. And I'm not trying to put anybody down, because we know people have thyroid issues as well, okay? But we've got to start with a better health practice for our young people, our children, because it takes all of your strength to deal in this warfare, that this assault against our people. But I saw these people standing around this lady, you know, so putting hands on her and praying for her. But my question is, if you ignore divine dietary laws, and I'm by no means talking like I'm some kind of, I slip up because there's little things I like too. I don't go to those fast food places, but there are little things I like. I don't eat pork, or I've cut down on the amount of fried foods that I eat. But, you know, again, we have to, our dietary practices have to change, because I'm telling you, when this next wave of whatever it is they're planning in these labs come around, they're going to take a lot of our people out. Okay. And the last thing you see, excuse me, the physiological. And if you don't have this, and this is what we were talking about with our people being the face of homelessness now, because none of the things that precedes it, the higher steps that I just talked about, if you don't have air, food, water, shelter, clothing, able to reproduce, or reproduction in any form, reproducing something or building something, or sleep. And a lot of our people suffer from insomnia due to these dietary laws that we have violated. And the point I was trying to make is that when you're standing around, and then they say, if the person does, well, I guess their faith wasn't strong enough. Okay, but, okay, Brother Lance, I want to look at, let's see, I want to look at, you see that picture where the man, the boss is arguing at the man, the wife has on a red dress, then he goes home. Yeah, yeah, that's it. Gotcha. Okay, that's it. Thank you, brother. So now, this is part, and you got to stay with me on this, but this is part of how, this is how the systemic traps work. Okay, and this is how this affects us as a people. Now, I know you can't help but notice the cat being the last one that's being dumped on you. You don't need a lot of toilet paper, because, you know, shit rolls downhill, as they say. Excuse my language. But here, and I want us to look at this in a different way. Now, where do we see our people in this, in these pictures? Which one of these frames best describe our people? So I'm going to use the feudalism system to help explain this and to give a better look at this. So you see the king in this feudalism system, who's represented by the boss, basically chewing out this man that works for him, which is a lord. Okay. And then you see the lord, and I don't want this to sound misogynistic. I'm just using it based on the pictures we have and how we function in our society, okay, or have functioned. Then you have the Lord going home to to his wife, okay? And he's dumping on her, okay, because the king dumped on him, okay? But in a larger context, he's chewing out the governmental officials that are violating the plan or going outside the plan. That's why they don't like Donald Trump as much. Because anybody that go against this plan, oh, trust and believe, they're gonna get the business. So this is where you see it here. So the woman represents one of the knights, okay? And so the knights scold the people that manage and run these systemic traps. And they're telling them, the banks, things like these corporations, these manufacturers, they're telling them, look, you need to put out more propaganda. You need to hoodwink people more. You need to come up with some things that they're fighting back too hard. They're gaining too much, and they're coming up out of this serf peasant position that we have them in. If you don't do something about it, I'm going to cut you off. And see, I want to make a point here. This is why a lot of white people have to go along. I don't want to mean have to go along, but this is why they go along with this system from the knights. As a knight, I mean, from the lords and the king, because they not only enjoy the trappings of it, but they can get punished, getting their stuff taken away from them as well, if they don't keep the pressure on us, okay, the way that the system that is designed for you and I to fail. If you don't carry out those orders, then you're going to get scolded. And here we go. We see the serf, the black cat. I'm sorry, okay, it's just the way the picture, I didn't make the picture, okay, but I saw it as a good way to analyze this system that we're operating in. So you see the knights that are, at the lowest level of knighthood in this feudalism system, they're the managers, okay, so they work for the corporations, what have you, because there are 3 levels of each one of these areas. With the knights, you have the managers, well, the middle management, then you have the corporations, okay, and then you have the actual entities themselves, the banks, the corporation, the manufacturer, the people that hire you, okay. So you see the knight on the lower scale, you show up to work late, and the black cat got to hear it. You know what I'm saying? Did you punch in on time? You know what I'm saying? Or you call in sick twice this week. We're going to write you up. You know what I mean? So I don't know who the cat goes to. I have an idea, because cats, they look for rats and snakes. So that might be the way that they solve their issues. But yeah, I mean, okay, Brother Lance, let's do the picture with the round one with the culture. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so in every culture, okay, the language that you speak, I'm not just talking about speaking physically, but I'm talking about the language that you live is a better way of saying it. Either promotes positivity or it takes away from the positivity of the culture. And again, this is why they pay some of our young people that spewing all this hate against our culture, why they give them this fiat, is because that language in itself creates a whole energy for our culture. Now, hip hop is the #1 genre of music around the world. It has done a lot to elevate our people. But what they have out here today is not hip hop. You can call it rap or whatever you want, or rappers or whoever. This is not what our people built this on and came up out of these projects and stuff on. Okay. But as time went on, they usurped this power from our people. And now you see what we have. Okay. And I'll never forget, I was teaching ESL, English as a Second Language, in DC. And this guy, I don't know if he was from Morocco or Tunisia or somewhere, but he was a brother, had curly hair. And he said to me, he said, "Teacher, how could something bad be good?" Because I was teaching the course on grammar for them and trying to show them that in America, the regional country you grew up, there are so many different factors in terms of how we use language. But the vernacular of our culture depends on where our people grew up at, their experiences, and also what the culture has taught us through narratives. And so I was showing them this movie where some of the players were saying, "We're bad." And the guys were looking at them like, "What do they mean?" The white guys they were on were looking at them like, "Is there something else I can help with?" Shut up, Alexa. I don't know why you butting in. This is, our culture. This is what we talk about. This is what we do. This is how we express our communication. And again, communication has to be germane to the culture in which it's coming out of. And this is, you've heard me say this before. This is where the major problem came in with our kids in standardized testing, and why Black psychologists during that time came up with a moratorium on standardized tests. And they created this test called the BITCH test, the Black Intelligence Test for Children, because they wanted to make the point that if I am the one creating the testing items, then the people that look like me and come from my experiences are going to be the highest scorers on these tests. And it turned out to be true. Okay. So we know that our children are put at a disadvantage because our kids are kinetic learners. They don't have to read no instructions. They don't have to do nothing. They can look right at it and put it together or explain it. Also courtesies. How courteous, I was talking about this earlier. How courteous are the people in a culture? This is a big form of language and communication to each other. The way we talk to each other, we can't even smile at each other. We can't even say anything encouraging. And God, this is teaching the kids, they are worse, some of them now. And it's not their fault. But if you eliminate the courtesies of a culture, opening the door for a woman, serving somebody a plate of food, just, the basic courtesies that give you a sense of pride and self-esteem in your own culture. We have lost this. Okay. Rituals. There are rituals that's germane to Black folks that we have passed down in our traditions. Some of it has been lost, but we must continue, especially the positive rituals. Okay. Now, we're the ones that have to continue. One of the rituals that I really believe that we now have to pick back up is put in pictures of Black people in our homes for our children to see, like Yeshua. Every home should have pictures, because the reason why I say this is a ritual, because a ritual is something that helps establish a tradition. And we have always had the tradition of having our people, their pictures on our walls or wherever, as a source of pride within our own culture. And this is something we need to do. Okay. Customs. Again, customs is kind of self-explanatory, but customs are developed from the rituals and the traditions that we have. Roles, we know that we have lost the roles in our community in terms of, what's your individual role? Now we have people so confused, they have usurped the roles in our communities. Okay, now, I ain't gonna go into that. We all know what we're talking about. That has done just as much to damage our community as we are now than anything else. Relationships, again, we make a huge mistake. You don't have to sleep with everybody you meet, and a lot of times this is something that I take a lot of pride in, that has helped me over the years. That my most effective relationships are platonic relationships. Okay, and this is something that we need to continue to practice. Just looking at our sisters as a piece of meat, and vice versa. Okay, so relationships are very, very necessary. How they're established, how you cultivate these relationships is very important. Practices. What do you do every day when you get up? What do you teach the people who are around you every day when you get up through your behavior? Okay, this is very important. Our practices have gone from bad to worse. Okay, but we can turn this around. Expected behaviors. Okay, now, we have to hold each other to a different standard. Okay, you're expected to behave a certain way as a Black man or a Black woman. You have lost this. Okay, as the original creators on the earth and creatrix, you have an obligation to let your son be dominant. Okay, this is another reason for the tears of the son. I think it was Dr. Claude Anderson did a video about inappropriate behaviors. We cannot accept this garbage from our children. You don't see nobody else doing this. So what makes you, and this goes along with the next one, values. We have got to reinstill values that uplift our culture. Okay, we have to do this. We cannot live by the values of other people. This has not worked for us. Yeah, there are a few people that slip through the cracks, okay. But as a community of people, we have got to reestablish our values. Thoughts, okay. Stop thinking all these negative thoughts, man. Ain't nobody out to get you. The people that are out to get you, you don't focus on them. You just believe everything they say. Okay, stop focusing all your thoughts on negative. Think about what you can do or where you can go to help uplift somebody. That's why I make it my business to go to the centers every day. I make it my business to go down and talk to the brothers and sisters out on the street. I do that because that is what gives me strength. And that keeps me on purpose. Okay, so use your thoughts to empower other people. Don't always be looking at what P. Diddy said or all these people that they're putting up to keep you, locked into that 90-degree way of saying the world. I'm not saying not to be aware of these things, but don't let those negative thoughts control what you do. We have a lot of work to do, and we have the resources in our community to do it. Like, folks just have to stop being stingy like these people I wish you could see Chinese people. I marvel at them. I don't care if they like it or not. I just go sometimes down by the market or Chinatown just to see them. It's amazing. They're not out here trying to put nobody down or all this other crazy stuff we're doing. They're busy. It's like walking into a beehive. Same thing with our Latino brothers and sisters here. Now, contrary to what you believe, the ones that are born in this country, that a lot of them are upset too. I know a lot of them. Okay, but again, there's going to be this divide because they're going to have you looking at all people from that culture as the same. You can't do that. You can't do that with all Black people. Okay, it is what it is. they have already, the people we need to be focused on is the people that have put us in this condition. Okay. Okay, Brother Lance. Let's see where I want to go now. I want to go with, put a couple of pictures up there, Lance, for me.
Okay. Here we go. Here's one.
Okay. So one of the reasons why I always focus on our genetic memory bank in terms of, putting out certain music on Facebook or YouTube or what have you, is because, like Curtis Mayfield, his music should be played around our children. Okay. But this particular album, Roots, is very deep. And again, the message he's trying to send is that if we don't go back to our roots, we have no ability to build, because we cannot build on the narratives of other people. This has been proven already, or else we would have done it already, all these centuries. So now, the thing that we have to do more than anything else is to go back to our roots. And music, listen to a little Bob Marley. Listen to different things. Their music, I listen to music now from people from other cultures. That's one of the things that's helping me open my vision about the world. Not that it wasn't there before, but now I'm actively seeking it. Whereas before, I just have just focus on, the black part of something and or the white part and how it affects us. But now I'm looking at all of the other components, because all of them affect us. So the point I'm trying to make here is, whether I'm around Asian people, Latino people, Arab people, or Indian people, you better believe I'm gonna get a full dose of their culture. And I applaud them. Okay. This is what Black folks need to go back to. There's nothing wrong with us reclaiming our roots, our sacred symbols, to stop all this crazy mess about some evil eye. Okay. We need to get back to farming, because you riding around in a Rolls Royce with $1 million chain around your neck, that ain't going to change nothing. That ain't going to do nothing. Okay. And once we go back to our roots, then you'll see a difference. Okay. And so some of the references I want to give before I go into the last part of the presentation, Brother Lance, I have a couple more pictures there, right? The one with the miseducation of the Negro with the lock around their brain.
Yes.
Okay. I want to talk. Yeah, I want to talk about this, because see, now the psychological change we have is what's really holding us back right now. And the reason why we have to cut this off now is because at the level that Black folks built this country now, they have brought other people in to replace you. Okay. So now we don't have a choice but the network. And listen, I understand we have issues with money and different things like that, but it's because of our way of thinking and looking at it. Okay. You're not using somebody because you ask for help and you may or may not be able to pay them back right now. Okay. Or somebody's asking you for help. Okay. And you don't have a means to do it. Come up with some kind of idea to help them raise money. Okay. We can't let this fiat define who we are and put us in this narrow box. Okay. So now I'm going to give homage to one of my favorite teachers, Dr. Amos Wilson. And we're going to talk about his book, School to Prison Pipeline. And I also did some research on the studies to support this. So one of the things that we have to deal with, as I said, with this chain and lock around our heads, our consciousness, is we have to look at certain things or certain systemic traps that have put us in this condition. All right, so before I go through the statistics here, I want to talk about a few things that's very important to this. So we talked about the social conditioning with the classical and operant conditioning. But one of the things that Dr. Amos Wilson taught us is that America is a crimogenic society. Okay. And that the two fundamental characteristics of this nation, okay, the theft and the taking of native or indigenous peoples, aboriginal peoples' lands by force, and then the kidnapping and forced labor of people from Akibalan that helped build this nation. Now, there were things that preceded this, okay, that we are not aware of simply because they have hidden it from the history books. A crimogenic society criminalizes all of its constituents. This is why we have this society of crime. It's because no one, okay, is excused from this. It affects all of us. The ones that are able to overcome the things that we're faced with have a better chance of not falling into this trap. But keeping in line with the school to prison pipeline, we're looking at social relationships between groups, power dynamics. And we know the power dynamics. We talked about it with the king, lord, knights, and serfs or peasants structure in this country. So the social relationships between groups determine a lot in terms of your growth and development, because if people know that you're proud of your culture, they have more respect for you. They actually, and I remember Dr. Kojo telling me this, the white people smile in your face, but they actually despise coons. They actually do. Because they know that this individual is weak to the point where they will betray the trust of their own people just to appease them. And that type of person, you don't want to be around. Even white people don't want to be around that type of person. But for sake of putting forth their narratives, they'll allow them. You know, they'll allow them some trinkets from their table. And, you know, and but this is one of the major reasons why we have to look at the social relationships between groups. The migrants that are here now, there is going to be a dynamic that exists, we already see, between them and Black people. It's going to be a dynamic that exists between in their own culture. Okay, I see that already. I was down the other day, talked to some people, and I went into one of the restaurants that, you know, I've always gone in to watch games and stuff like that, and a Mexican restaurant. And I know the managers and the owner. And so I saw all these people, guys out there selling whatever they could, I don't know if they stole it, where they got it from. But one of the managers said to me, we got a problem. And I looked, he was like, since, you know, people have been showing up, you know, they're harassing people coming out of the restaurants and everything. And I'm like, wow, really? So it's here too. Okay, so we have this social dynamic that we're going to have to deal with now that has been forced upon our people. The other thing is, who determines the standards and values you live by. We were talking about this earlier when we were discussing the hierarchy of needs. Who determines this? Who determines the standards and values that you live by and what you teach your children? We all know the answer to that. Okay, we know who determines that. And they mainly determine that through either reward or punishment, either through fiat or through jobs or whatever weapons they can use. Okay. Who controls your survival needs? Maslow's hierarchy of needs that we just talked about. That's very important. Who controls that? Whoever controls your survival needs, honestly, because if we were, if we thought as a community and networked, we wouldn't have this problem. But we have this problem.
Okay, Brother Neil, you muted yourself by mistake. Okay, Brother Neil just fell off. I know he'll come back on, but he just it was muted, and maybe it's an internet connection on that side. So bear with us, everybody. This is really good, and here he is. He's back again. He's returned.
Got knocked out.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Yeah. You go ahead, brother.
Okay, so I was talking about who controls your survival needs, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. See, this is why you see this behavior with some of the migrants, is because when you strip people down to this level, where the people that are controlling the survival needs, our government of these people, they're going to be beholden to them. I don't care what nobody else say. Okay, they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. Okay. Rediscover ourselves. Conscious people build, grow, and control their own destiny. Okay. Now, why are you targeted? As some people, you're targeted. That's clear for any Stevie Wonder can see that. But why are you targeted? Because your time has come. And those that have planted their seeds that are germinating and have taken root, and now the harvest is here. But what comes after the harvest is karma, because whatever harvest that those seeds that have been planted for hundreds of years, when they harvest, whether they're negative or positive, then the law of karma is going to automatically come with that. And so a lot of our people are still caught up into this wickedness, okay, and not realizing that they're going to get the same karma that's going to come with that, okay. No man can stop this, and nobody can stop this. It's already in motion. Then we look at the removal. Oh, Lance, if you show the picture of the mountain and the valley, I want to explain something.
The only one we have left now. And there's one more. There's one more. This okay. Must be in here. Yeah, there it is.
It. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So when we look at nature, nature teaches us a valuable lesson about mountains and valleys. But again, we have been taught different narratives. But I always say the bigger the mountain, the bigger the reward, not just for me, but for our people. So if that mountain is big, then I know that there is something that I have in motion that has now caused this mountain to the divine law of relativity or testing automatically goes into effect. So when we have, I'll take reparations, for example. We got this huge wall that these people have put up, knowing that our people created all of this wealth for them and their descendants. But they'll put this big mountain up where we can't benefit from it. Out of what? Out of their own fears. Okay. they're afraid that Black people will turn on them like they did on us if we gain any type of ability to do that through fiat or land or what have you. And so with that, they have taught us that it's impossible to climb those mountains. Okay, but if you not only climb the mountain, go around it or through it. Okay, so we have to look at nature for what it teaches us, not what the narratives that we have been taught by. And when you look at Mount Kilimanjaro, okay, our people gain so many concepts from that. Okay, how the water runs from a southerly direction to a northerly. This is something that defies nature. So that tells you right there that it's something special about that. The other one I want to talk about is the valley, because the narratives and the propaganda that is used to make our people feel like, we can't climb out of these valleys or the barrels that we're in with the other crabs, that we can't get out. But actually, a valley represents one of the greatest opportunities in life. Because when you're in a valley, you have to look at your real situation. See, they have taught our people to look at illusions and not deal with our reality and all the stuff that we're subject to, all the systemic traps, because they say, oh, you're playing the race card, or oh, you're playing the victim card. Really? Yeah, good. You got any more cards like that I can play? Because this is a reality. And the law of divine testing, or the law of relativity, is always present in these situations. Okay? Because in order for you to appreciate something, you have to go through something. And I had a little meme where you had the caterpillar and the butterfly sitting at a table, drinking wine. And the caterpillar, I guess, was the female, and the guy was the butterfly. And he had seen her in years. And she looked at him and she said, "My, you've changed." And the butterfly said, "Yeah, I found out we're supposed to." And you see, it's all about perception, because the system has done everything they can to eliminate Black folks. Let's just look at it for what it is. The important thing that we don't look at is that they focus on the children, man. They're not worried about you because they got you hooked on fiat and worried about, all this other stuff that's going on. Okay, who cloned Tyrone and all this other stuff. But now is the greatest time, the energy is present for us to rise. Okay, but we're not going to rise unless we recognize the weapons that are being used against us and what we have to do to fight back. Now, let's go back to Dr. Amos Wilson, the School to Prison Pipeline. I actually discovered 4 studies to support this. In the 90s, the public school system came up with this zero tolerance policy. And this was designed, I call this from the womb to the tomb, because once our children are born, like I was explaining earlier, that now they're subject to all the things that the systemic issues that we have to deal with, okay, or the traps once they're born. But interestingly, I found a study, okay, that supports the school to prison pipeline that Dr. Amos Wilson was talking about. This study was done in 2015. 18% of preschoolers, get this, preschoolers. Okay, Brother Lance, you can move the picture. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, that was the last one, right?
Yes.
Okay. So 18% of preschoolers are Black, but of all children suspended more than once, 48% are Black. This study was done in 2015. I know that, they're always talking about the race card or the victim card. No, this study was done in 2015. Okay, so I'm going to read it again. 18% of preschoolers are Black. Preschoolers now, kindergarten. They ain't even in the indoctrination cycle yet. Okay. 18% of preschoolers are Black, but of all children suspended more than once, 48% are Black. That's high. Of all the children suspended more than once. So with the school to prison pipeline, when they came up with this policy, it was directed towards the Sun children. Okay. This zero tolerance policy, because this is a form of indoctrinating children at a very early young age. Okay, so this statistic said that Sun children, that officers are placed in schools with the highest number of Black children, 50%. We'll read that again. Officers are placed in schools. So you have this physical presence that our children as preschoolers and even in their schools that they now are subject to. Okay, but 50% of them were Sun children. This was done through 2010 and 2015. And the other study that was done with this was 1 in 6 students in the US are Black, but account for 1 out of every 3 arrests. Let me say that again. 1 in 6 students. The study was done in 2010 to 2015. 1 in 6 students in the US are Black, but account for 1 out of every 3 arrests. Black students are expelled or suspended at 3 times the rate of white students. And this study was done in 2010 and 2015. Now, I have personal experiences with this. This is why I can speak on this. When I was working for ARE in DC, Associates for Renewal and Education, there's a woman. I got so much respect for this sister right here, Dr. Brenda Nixon. She was on the DC school board, and she was a council member. But I met her, when I first came back and I went to DC, and I was hired by a guy I went to Morgan with, who was the operations manager for ARE. He told me, he introduced me to Miss Nixon.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I'm going to step away for 1 second. Well, okay. About 3 minutes. I'll be right back.
Okay, brother. Mm-hmm. I sat down with her, and she said to me point blank, she said that we need to do something about this problem that we have with the expulsion of Black children from the DC public school system. And she, at that time, she told me, I forgot how high the figures was, but I recently looked up this study that was done in 2018. Now, expulsion is different than suspension. With expulsion, that means that you can't go back ever to the public school system. And this is a serious indictment on a young person. The expulsion rate was 58% for Black students in the DC public school system. This study was done in 2018. And many of them end up either dead or in prison. Okay. And I remember how passionate Ms. Nixon was about this, because she said that the reasons were because of the different ways now that they begin to focus on our children in public schools, more like, what's the word she used? But she was saying it was more like they were under house arrest than in an institution of learning. And so I'd always been interested about that. And I looked and I looked and I wanted to find a study to support this. And I finally found one. It showed that white students, okay, most likely will be suspended for things like smoking, cutting class, or excessive tardiness. However, Black students get suspended more for expressive behaviors, such as talking back or questioning control measures that target them more frequently. This study was done in 2018. And this immediately took my mind back to something, because this zero tolerance kind of put a muzzle on our children, so like what they try to do with us now. Okay, so our children were suspended more for speaking out or expressing how they feel about something, not just saying, okay, you know, I'll take this for face value. Well, why is this way? How, even asking questions. And I remember that there was a young Black collegiate student that she was arrested for challenging a professor on a point. So you see, these are the types of things, once we start moving beyond the narratives, that we've got to be prepared to deal with. And the primary way of dealing with that is teaching our children our true history, and also helping them to navigate through these systemic traps and these negative social conditioning traps that they use for them. Okay, another study showed that Black students and white students are sent to the principal's office at comparable rates. However, Black students receive harsher punishments, okay, at a higher rate than white students. This study at 46%. And this study was done in 2016. And finally, just to kind of wrap up, talking about the social learning theory that is used against us through classical and operant conditioning. The social conditioning and manipulation of conditions that we live and express ourselves through, okay, are the ones that have been conditioned to live out these aspects of their conditioning. Okay, I want to say that again. So the social conditioning and the manipulation of the conditions, like we saw with the rat in the lab experiment, okay, the conditions that we live and express ourselves through, and I'm talking about Black people right now, okay, they are the ones that have been most conditioned, and also their behavior expresses this, or they live this. And this is one of the fundamental traps that they have set for our people in terms of social conditioning, okay, and social learning, because we learn and adapt. Nobody is born with hate. Nobody is born, you know, jealous of somebody or envious. These are things that we learn. And the power differential between the conditioner, or us, and those that are, I'm sorry, the system, and those that are conditioned, us, it is what is the most powerful dynamic here, because there's a huge power differential. And I'll show you why. Because again, you ask the question, who controls your standards, your values, your survival needs? Who controls and shapes your neighborhoods, your schools, the food you eat, the GMOs, the water you drink with all this fluoride and other lead and all this stuff in, like they did in Flint? Who controls your utilities? Who have the power to cut the lights out and things of that nature? Who controls your jobs? Who controls your status symbols, like we talked about earlier? Who controls how much money you make, your wages? Who controls the loans that you can't get? Okay, these are the power dynamics, okay, and the power differential that exists in our communities, and that can only be effectively fought against by us coming together and networking. Okay, because the reward and punishment of your behavior, like operant conditioning, really determines, how you're gonna act. So finally, the thing that I want to leave with you today, in terms of not just the systemic traps and our social conditioning, is that the tears of the sun, okay, is a rallying call for us. And the reason why it's a rallying call, because it's unnatural for the sun to have tears, right? That's unnatural. It can have solar flares. But I'm talking about not the physical characteristic of the sun. I'm talking about the life-giving force, the spiritual force, the psychological force that comes from solar energy and sunshine. Would you say, Brother Lance?
No, I just said yes in agreement, and also to make a little noise, let you know I'm back. That's what I do.
Okay.
All right.
Glad to be back, brother. But I was explaining why the tears of the sun, which is an unnatural thing, because we all know the sun doesn't, put out water. Okay. But I'm talking from a spiritual and a psychological perspective, that the tears of the sun represent the failures that we have presented to it, when this is our greatest source of energy, the life giver. We as sun people are supposed to possess and embrace the sun. Okay, this is what gives us our beautiful hue. Okay, this is what teaches us through our pineal gland. There are so many things that we're connected with the sun, that the sun is actually crying because we have turned our back on nature. And with that, brother, I'll close on that.
Okay, brother. That was again phenomenal. You break it down in a concise manner that everybody can understand it. You take concepts that others actually complicate when they try to explain it. And one of the reasons is because you've been doing this for so long. Mm-hmm. And you have the kind of mind on a multifaceted level, not just one way. You know how to teach to people who are teachable on different planes. Mm-hmm. It was explained to me a long time ago. And also Dr. Lila Africa said it.
Yes.
That people can learn by, they'll tell you, I'm not seeing that. I'm not hearing that. I'm not feeling that. Mm-hmm. Well, they'll never tell you that, because you cover all the bases. Mm-hmm. And that's because you have that brilliance. This is your gift. This is what you were put here to do. But you cover all the bases and you take time. And one good thing also, I mean, it's a million things. I'll drop it every week, that you don't come on with an arrogance. There are people who, I'll say it, who are talented in no way whatsoever, who are lesser than you in their ability to convey the concepts, the theories, and the facts. And they contain an arrogance. Even when it's not detected online, there are people who I know who it's all about them and the ego. Mm-hmm. And they feign being a servant. They feign taking joy It's a numbers game for them, an ego rush. And I'm just here to say that a lot of people have come and gone. And if you don't see them, it's usually because of that. The arrogance. You are playing your position righteously, and this is why the people are really seeing this in you, and they appreciate that, because on social media, it's easy for those to go and say this and say that, and even say some impressive things. But what are they doing on the ground? Meaning boots on the ground. You talk to people. You showed me pictures of you walking, and this is what we know. We can see this is what you do. You see? And I want to thank you for that, because that's really a throwback. And throwback doesn't mean anything bad. We're going back to the original, where we had more men who walked the streets like you, who have a word inside their heart, and they weren't looking for any acknowledgement. And sometimes we didn't even know their name. Growing up, there was a man down the block from me that even slightly didn't exactly resemble you, but he had your bearing, and we never knew his name. He rented a room down the block, and he always carried himself a certain way, and he always dropped some nuggets on us that we can absorb. Nothing more than what we can absorb, and we always wanted more. We'd see him coming, and we'd get happy to ask him something, and he'd always drop something on us or correct something that what we were doing, and I just never saw him again. It's that spirit that I see inside of you. But I just want to say that a lot of people that we see out here in social media, they're not out here for the sincere teaching. Because see, you were doing this long before YouTube came into existence. You had your mind, you were formulating lessons, you were learning, you were studying as you do now. And that is to be applauded. And we need to see the difference in an individual like you who really is all about it, as opposed to these people who are just manufactured, who are all talk. And people would say, well, Lance, you're telling on yourself. No, I'm a servant. I talk about life. I talk about the things I've been through. I'm not saying I'm some revolutionary and revolution, all this stuff. We are in the way we speak, because it's changing people's minds. But I'm not trying to say I'm Malcolm X. I'm not trying to say, we're not trying to say that. You see what I'm saying? Like even with me, a person calls me, they have something to say. Come on, we're going to do a show about it. Or maybe I'll rant on something or talk about something. But I'm not trying to claim through some arrogance but I tell you, brother, you are the real thing. You and another brother that I know, you might be watching now, brother Malik Aziz, he's the real thing. Because most of these YouTubers and social media people, they're only interested in hits, and we gauge these things to see how things are going. This is my job to do. That if I can do something better in presenting you, I'm going to do it behind the scenes. I'm doing some things now as you speak, but that's my life. That's what I've committed to. You see what I mean? But some of these people, these milquetoast, watered down, attention seeking, narcissistic, whatever, that don't want to, probably never even read a book, but they want to get up there and be this orator without any substance behind it. Every episode here, you're teaching. Any way you slice it, any 3 minutes that you take out of this video, you've learned something on an immense level. And I won't hold you no more, brother. I just wanted to say that, man.
Well,
we appreciate
you. You know, as I always say to you, I take it as a privilege and honor every time I get the opportunity to present on your platform, because again, the energy works both ways. Someone like you that brings the energy you bring, it keeps me encouraged to keep going every day. And so all I have to do, all I have to do is turn on YouTube, and once I see you, I'm good. Because I know I'm gonna hear something that's pertaining to our people, whether it's a social issue, a spiritual issue, a psychological. We need to talk about all of this. And then we need to examine the roots of our sickness. Like I say to you all the time, Brother Lance, if you go to a hospital and you're sick, they're not going to pull Neil Frazier's medical chart, right? So why in the hell are we living our lives according to the medical chart of other people culture. Even if you went to the hospital, you're being diagnosed. Okay, let's face it, according to
Right.
the biological needs of European women. You're not being diagnosed based on the physiological differences that melanated women have. And this is very, you mentioned Dr. Leola Africa. He went into depth about this. And this is why it's necessary for us to teach this to our children. So, brother, I'm gonna leave you with that.
Yes.
I made an announcement to you. I'll wait till I actually have it in hand to present to you. And we'll discuss.
Yes.
But
we're going to do something exclusively on that.
Huh?
We're going to do something exclusively on that, and I'm going to put some little commercials, little advertisements,
okay,
and everything. I just want to tell everybody in a few minutes, I'm going to put in the description area the playlist of all of Brother Neil Frazier's shows. So you can drink it up, eat it up, you know, catch up, and all of that stuff. So I'm overjoyed. My Monday's complete. We had the show, and you're here. You did it, and my Monday, I'm happy. I'm full. I'm pushing myself away from the table. Thank you.
Okay, my brother Lance. You
Yes.
take care, brother.
Thank you so much, brother.
Much love.
Much love and respect. Peace.
Make sure to go to LANCESCURV.com, an online magazine established in 2001, containing written articles, thousands of talk shows and discussions, cutting-edge cartoons, as well as erotic expressions and tasteful adult photography. It's definitely not for the faint of heart. Once you get a taste of the world of LANCESCURV, trust me, you'll be back for more. LANCESCURV.com. Bold, raw, and uncut.